Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. There is a strange sort of time lapse playing out throughout the country right now. The places that have been hit first and hardest by the coronavirus are further along the curve of growth. And those places are fairly dense urban areas, big metropolises, and they are in really bad shape. The grim reality of this virus is that every single state is headed there. Here are the latest numbers. We now have more than 240,000 cases in this country, more than 5,800 deaths from the virus. More than half of the cases are in just 3 states. New York, which has more than 92,000 cases, along with New Jersey and California. We are also seeing disturbing surges in a number of other states we've been keeping an eye on and tracking for the last week at least, including Florida, Michigan, Louisiana. Here's the thing. The way this virus works is that not everyone will have exactly the same epidemic at the same time. But the actual way the virus spreads in the community is the same everywhere. It's the same virus, the same human bodies. And that is why it is critical there is a cohesive federal national response. Last week, the governor of Alabama, Kay Ivey, who has taken some strong steps down there, explained why she had not issued a shelter-in-place order for residents of her state, opting instead for less restrictive measures. This is what she said, quote, "Y'all, we are not Louisiana, we are not New York State, and we are not California." That's right, you are not. Yet. It is just a matter of time. A New York City ER doctor this morning offered a message to anyone who believes they might escape the worst of it.
New York, 2 weeks ago, had only 300 cases. New York today has 30,000. The cities around America with 300 cases should realize the only difference between them and New York is 2 weeks.
So far, the places that have been hit the hardest, like I said, fairly dense areas in blue states. But the country as a whole is headed in that direction. This is the way the math of this works. It's the way it's worked in every country. It's the way it's been working here. Every one of the states that are behind on that curve are going to be in a similar situation. They're going to need ventilators and hospital beds and personal protective equipment, and they will be facing fatality numbers that seemed unthinkable just a few weeks ago. And right now, a lot of states are refusing to see what is plainly in front of their face. These 11 states have not issued statewide stay-at-home orders. Some have localized orders in place. One thing in common with all these states, they all have Republican governors. Other states like Florida and Texas and Georgia only issued stay-at-home orders recently. In Florida, for example, just hours after Republican Governor Ron DeSantis finally issued the statewide stay-at-home order, he signed a religious exemption basically blocking local governments from closing down church and synagogue ceremonies during the outbreak. In Georgia, the state where the CDC is located, Republican Governor Brian Kemp finally issued a stay-at-home order today, claiming he just learned that people without symptoms can spread the disease. As the New York Times reports, in areas where public officials have resisted or delayed stay-at-home orders, people change their habits far less. This Times graphic shows where people were still traveling last week. Gray means no travel, and red means closer to normal travel. And you can see that in much of the Northeast, there was essentially virtually no travel. Look at the South. Look at the Plain states. As you can see, people in southern states were far less inclined to change their behavior because they were not getting the same messages from their leaders. And there is reason to believe that parts of those states could get hit even worse than what we are seeing in the worst hit states today, places like New York. As The Atlantic points out, the coronavirus poses a unique risk to the American South, where residents on the whole have high rates of conditions like lung and heart disease and obesity, which makes the virus far more deadly. Take, for example, the state of Mississippi. That state right now seems to have the nation's highest rate of people hospitalized for the coronavirus at 31%. And the virus there is not expected to peak for nearly 2 months. A week ago, the state's Republican governor, Tate Reeves, actually overruled, get this, he overruled local safety measures to fight the virus, reopening restaurants and department stores. The governor announced a shelter-in-place order yesterday, which is not going into effect until tomorrow at 5 p.m. As a nation, we could have mitigated some of the worst of what is to come with a strong, decisive, unified federal response. We just didn't have one. We know that. President Donald Trump refuses and refused and is refusing to take a leadership role. Just today, he was whining about state requests for life-saving medical supplies and tweeting, "Remember, we are a backup for them." That is Donald Trump's idea of leadership. The federal government is a backup, kind of Articles of Confederation kind of situation. And that is why this crisis is already far worse than it ever should have been.